one, but what really caught my attention and made me want to buy the book is because the author, Samantha Parrish, is local. She's an FLCC and Hobart William Smith alumni, so I was excited to just generate some revenue for her. And then there's actually some references in the book that made me smile, so that was pretty cute. But the chapters are set up as time periods of life. So it starts by introducing our main character. Her name's Emily, and she is born in the 90s, and I was born in '89, so I was already drawn to her character. She talks about her sheltered Catholic schooling and how she loses her father at a very young age. And although she's supposed to be really sad about it, she was just so young. She also loses her mother to depression and bad coping skills after she loses her father. So she gets really close to her paternal grandmother at an early age. You meet her and learn about their relationship, and she goes by the name of Greta. She supplements that relationship a lot based on her lack of parental relationships, and then she ends up losing her as a teenager. So that was really the hardest part for her growing up, more than losing her father and even her mother, because she learned to cope with those as a young age, and then as a teenager lost her coping skills. So she has a friend, Megan, who she has a really messed up relationship with. She befriends her at a young age because she was protected by Megan in school, and then Megan kind of claims her. So nobody's really allowed to be friends with Emily because Megan is very controlling and manipulative, and because she protected her at a young age, she just felt like she was her friend and she didn't really know any better, so they develop a very odd friendship growing into their college years. And then she becomes an adult. She ends up going to college, getting married. She becomes a mother, and she stays friends with Megan against most of her better judgments, but throughout it all, she always just has a feeling that something isn't quite right. She talks a lot about her middle name being Lucy and how her grandmother picked that name, and she was always really proud that she picked that name, but it makes her feel really nauseous. And then she feels really detached when people use her full name and say the word Lucy, and then she gets really wrapped up in her adult life, like most people do, trying to cope day to day, but she becomes a really attentive mother and kind of uses her daughter Rachel to escape from the hard parts of marriage and friendships and life, her mother and all of the other hard parts. She starts to question a lot of parts of her life, and she ends up having really vivid dreams and falling into a depression after she loses her grandmother, but she ends up going on medication and states in the book that she forgets about all the memories that she longs for in those dreams and the reasons that she escaped, and she knew that she wanted help and she didn't want to feel bad anymore, so she takes the medication every day, and it helps her move along with her life and not feel like she's missing something anymore, so she doesn't want to sleep all the time. So after she has her daughter and she starts questioning things, she starts having really vivid dreams despite taking the medication, and then people start questioning her and her ability to cope.
Do you prefer questions at the end?
I don't know, does it matter?
It's up to you.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
Do they ever say what the medication is?
Not really, just it briefly states like that, I actually had it bookmarked in here, but it just says that she just started taking medication for depression, and it helps her sleep normally.
So
she starts
part of the
taking
motivation was that
medications.
she was having bad dreams?
Yep, so she was having dreams that made her dream of her grandmother, and she was missing her grandmother so much that she just wanted to sleep all the time. So she had thrown herself into work, or like schooling and extracurriculars, but when she wasn't doing those, she was just sleeping. And so her mother had gotten concerned. She ends up on the medication because she does want to feel better. And then so, throughout her adult life, she's taking these medications and not really remembering what that was doing to her, and why she was doing that so much. So even as a mom, she knows that they help her a lot. But when she starts having the vivid dreams as an adult, and her friend Megan, being manipulative, reaches out to her mother, who's not well, and they turn against her kind of and try and continue to question her reality and question her ability to parent or cope and just live her life in general. So she starts to question a lot of things start to spiral, and then on her birthday she ends up in a car accident. And she wakes up in a trailer on the floor as a girl named Lucy. and she doesn't know why. But she's really confused, and she remembers Lucy's whole 20 years of life. She knows the people that are in the room with her, and she wakes up from an overdose, so she knows she's an addict, and she knows that she needs to figure out how to get back to her daughter. After her confusion settled, she's decided she's in hell, and she needs to get back to Rachel somehow. So she goes through a lot of episodes, and reading further and further into it, it's really fascinating what she goes through. I was really captivated. I think this whole part of the book went so quickly for me. But she is mentioned that her grandmother Greta is alive, and it's the same grandmother she had when she was Emily. So that makes more questions for her, and she starts to become more interested in why things are related. She recognizes the people that are in her life from the dreams she was having, and then all of a sudden Greta's gone again. So she's left with more questions, and she falls into a really deep spiral, and that's when I start to give away a lot more details if you haven't read the book. So it gets really, really good. The end of the book is really, it makes you think a lot, and it's one of those things where like, oh, I wonder if this is what's gonna happen, and then you get to the end, you're like, oh, well maybe it's this, and then I don't know, maybe I'm gullible, because my husband's one of the people who can tell the end of a movie before it gets there, and I'm just like, wow, I never saw it, but I really liked it. I did find myself reading through some of the descriptions quickly, because I felt like they were rather long, and I was just like, okay, I get it, she's got brown hair, and I just want to know what happened. And, she is really descriptive, and the book moves pretty quickly. Like, you know, I'm halfway through the book, she wakes up as the other person, and you're like, hold on, I was just into this, and now I have to start a whole other story, and then it really does mesh well into the other story, and it raises so many questions that you don't want to stop reading, because you really want to find out why it is the way that it is. So I was captivated, and I liked it a lot. So I was glad that even though I bought the book to generate revenue, I was motivated to read it with this group. So thank you for that. And if you haven't read it, I hope you do want to read it. If you have read it, I hope you like it as much as I did. And yeah.
Is the book autobiographic?
I don't think so. I think it's based, no, it's a work of fiction, and it just says it explores self-discovery, trauma, and the pursuit of a meaningful life. So I think in the preface here, I think that it has something to do with, well, maybe there isn't a preface, maybe I read it somewhere else, but I think that it has, you know, I think a lot of people feel this way, so I'm sure a lot of the emotions were real. So I definitely was relating to the character a lot because of her regular life problems. Like she goes to college and has some traumatic college, you know, basic like college experiences that can be, I don't know how much information I really want to give away, but it does kind of meld her relationships a lot. She is easily manipulated because of not knowing a lot, sheltered in a Catholic school, and then getting attention in college. She really kind of felt like she wanted to be her own person, and something would happen and she was like motivated to do something else. Even when she met her husband Scott, I had bookmarked in here that one of the reasons she met him was because Megan told her that she was interested in him but not that interested in him, and you should go on a date with him, and kind of pushing him to do it. And then they went on a date, and then he was pretty wealthy, so he ended up asking her to go to Florida with him, and she kind of mocked her and was like, oh, well, isn't that a little fast? You know, a date at a restaurant all of a sudden turns into a trip to Florida. And she was like, well, you know, your mom would probably, you know, I'm sure her money is running out anyway, so she would probably appreciate it. And then so she ends up pushing Megan away and becoming closer to Scott without her. So she then kind of manipulates her into being closer to her without even realizing it. And then she kind of latches onto that. And then after she marries Scott, he tells her things about their college experiences that she was like, wait, what? Well, now I'm attached to you, and you've always been better to me than these people, so I might as well try and figure this out. So it's really just one step after another for her, trying to figure out how to just deal with what she's kind of going through. And it's really relatable to, I mean, not that I've gone through it specifically, but to a lot of people's lives in general. And she's ends up in an accident around the same
maintain a relationship with Megan even though it's a little fractured at times and maybe not the most positive?
So right before her accident, she starts to uncover a lot of truths about Megan and Scott and their relationship, between the two of them, well, actually the three of them in general, and, they talk about like the birth of her baby being really questionable and like just a lot of really big events being like, wait, what's going on here? And then she starts to question a lot of things and they're like, well, you're crazy, you're not sleeping well. You know, you said you've been having bad dreams again, maybe you should go talk to the doctor. And so they just keep trying to question things and she's like, oh, I don't understand, I'm just gonna take my daughter to the water park. And she just keeps trying to like push herself into being a good mom. She ends up not using her degree, so I think that she's very like focused on being with her daughter, and that's also motivating to her when she becomes Lucy. So she does end up pushing Megan away, and she kind of, when she becomes Lucy, learns a lot about, there's a person in her life as Lucy that loves her and keeps wanting to be with her even though she's an addict and she keeps pushing him away. So during that time, questions like, do I want to be here? Should I be here? Because there is people here that love me and want me to be here and I don't really have that in my other life, so maybe I should be here, maybe this is where I should be. So she questions a lot of where, like, what's going on in general, because she's confused, and she remembers her life as Emily and she remembers her life as Lucy. And then as Emily, she remembers pieces of Lucy, but kind of starts to decide as she's Lucy, as more and more pieces come together, that dog bite or that scar that she remembers, was that really from when I was Lucy, or was it from when I was Emily? Or like, where did this really come from and what pieces are meshing together? And then Greta really raises a lot of questions for her being in both aspects of her life, but her name is Winifred when she's Emily, but she goes by Greta. So there's a lot of things that start to piece together when she becomes Lucy, and she's just like, no, I have to get back to Rachel, I have to get back to Rachel. And she's just so motivated by being a mother that she's blinded by, I think, a lot of other things until she starts to uncover them. So it gets really fascinating.
In the end, does she make a choice, or is it kind of left to you?
She does make a choice.
She does make a choice. So, I mean, I think everybody has trauma in their life to varying degrees, and it sounds like, you know, her trauma is pretty significant, losing her parents when she's young, and then her grandmother who was raising her. So is it still relatable to people that haven't had such extreme trauma?
Well, also Lucy's life is probably even worse. So Lucy's an addict, right? And she has been pushed away by her parents, who she talks about like remembering that they couldn't have kids, but then they finally did. So they were like the miracle child, but it was mostly just like a box that was checked. So they did the thing, and then she was there. That was all that they really needed. And so she got into the drugs, and they're like, oh, I'm not doing this again, I'm not doing this again, and kept trying to like push her into rehab and stuff. And as addicts do, she talks about her cycle. But I think the relatable part is, if you're a parent, you're really just, she talks so much about like, I want this, this, and this, and she's like, never mind, I really need, this is my daughter, I can't think about anything else, I really just want this. And that's relatable if you're a parent. In general, she talks about like her life growing up in her college years. I think we've seen that a lot in Lifetime movies, so there's some trauma in there, but it's not her trauma, it's other people's trauma that she experiences and keeps excusing their behaviors for. So it's just a lot of things that keep happening to her that she shoves away. And I think a lot of people can relate to just pretending like nothing's happening so you can get through your day to day. And then her trouble with marriage isn't always just trouble, it's always just feeling like something wasn't right, and she just keeps trying to dig into that.
So is it gaslighting kind of thing?
I don't know, I feel like they want to be together, but I think knowing that like you find out that she ends up being Lucy, I feel like you at the end realize why she always felt like things weren't right, because once she starts asking questions to Greta as Lucy, she has more questions, but then answers things from her life as Emily and stuff too. You got a question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering about the title. Is there a connection between the title and the actual story?
I think she is in a coma for 8 days, which is 12,775 minutes or something like that. I had to Google it. Like, oh, 8 days.
like, I read like a blurb and didn't like read the whole story, but like, I thought in the beginning it said that like, it was 12,775 days that she was actually like alive before her accident.
Got it, cause that's only
That's quite a bit.
8, okay, before her accident, I was gonna say, cause I don't know, cause she's in a coma, but then like, I
So
can't
it was
really give
on
away
her-
the ending.
Because it was on her birthday that it happened.
Right, yeah,
And
and
she
that was
like,
exactly 30-something years or something.
yeah, and she was like, it was like 12, I was like alive for like 12,775 days.
Gotcha.
Like, I read like the brief like snippet.
I remember, cause I finished it up like maybe a month ago, so I'm like, I remember being like, oh, that's why it's named this, and then be like, oh crap, I don't have time to review it. Like, why was it, I should've bookmarked it then, but I didn't, and I think it had something to do with that, and
She was like,
Emily's.
I was alive, I was like, cause she went to Starbucks, and like
Yes.
on her way to Starbucks, she was like, man, I've been alive for like 12,775 days, and like, this is how my life is going. Like,
Yeah.
I spilled my drink at Starbucks, I
Yes,
have to go back to Starbucks to
well, I
get
probably circled it.
this drink. Cause she had just dropped her kid off to like school or something like that. I don't know why I remember.
Yeah, in her life,
But I do
she
remember.
just discovered a lot of really bad things in her life that she was like, great, now this is going.
Yeah, now this happens, like, my free Starbucks drink falls in the car.
Yeah.
I've been alive for I don't know why I would remember that you were alive for 775 days, like, I would never think that, but yeah.
There are actually a couple parts I remember circling being like, I think she messed up, because they're like, she's dreaming, they're calling her Lucy, but then like in the next sentence, like she's calling herself Lucy, referencing herself, but they're for Emily, but they like said like, stop it, Emily, and I'm like, no, she's Lucy in the dream. I think she messed, I had to like reread that like 6 times, I'm pretty sure that was a typo. I'm like so confused. And then there's just a couple typos at the end with spacing that I had to like wonder why.
Do you know, did she self-publish the book?
Yeah, I don't know. It says there's a few people she wants to thank, and she thanks the colleges and stuff, but she doesn't thank a publisher specifically. But it does say, this is where I read it, it was at the end, where she does have people who, the character in here, it's a little inappropriate, I don't know if I should say it because you're recording me, but it's got a name in here and she says especially this person, so there's like I think the bad character is from somebody in her life that she is knowing, but she also thanks like her family and stuff.
When was it published?
2023.
I think she's also working on another book.
Great.
Is this her first one?
That was her first one.
Sorry. It doesn't get.
That was her first one, and I believe she's also working on a second novel.
So it says the authors have no financial interest in receiving no compensation from the manufacturers of the book or websites mentioned in this book. That's all it says. Because she mentions vitamins. And there's a restaurant that she calls like Casa Italiano or something like that. I'm like, oh, she's from that.
The addiction that she talks about, addicted to, is it opiates or?
Yeah, she talks about a couple different things, like a lot of it's just waking up, like she wakes up that way from Narcan overdose, and then she ends up with a couple of just bad instances, and she's like, I know I have a couple of those blue pills hidden in the back, in the coat pocket for emergencies, and then knows that she has like certain pills that she can get, and things like that. It's very interesting. I struggled with how much to give away for the book, because that's really like the part that captivated me the most, was like, wait, which one is really it? And then it really does come together really well at the end of the book and aligns with some really cool just thoughts that I know a lot of people may have.
Did you like the way it ended?
I did.
Does she spend a lot of time talking about her addiction?
No, she talks a lot about the people around her during her addiction and how that gas station, and she just starts realizing the people that she has in her life. So again, she starts questioning, like, is this where I should be? Was Emily's life really worse? If I could get clean, is this life better? And then she's like, no, I really just need my daughter. I need Rachel. There's nothing else I can think about for Rachel. So.
Wait, that was packed into that little.
I know, like I said, it was hard to give away what happened because I did have like a really long synopsis of what was going on, but I felt like it was just a lot of detail that really, because the book kind of moves so quickly, a lot of big details are really lumped into her stories, and I'm like looking, I'm like, wow, that was really only the first like little bit. I packed a lot there. It was like so much in all these little pieces that she tries to fit like 2 lives into this little book, and I think that it's great because even though I was trying to read through some of the detail that I felt like was a little mundane, I never felt myself going, this is so important, like when do we get to the next part? I'm like, no, I'm bored with the detail because I want to know what happens. Like I just can't wait to figure out what she says next or what she's doing next or why. I definitely like how it ended. I like how it came together. I like the way the grandma came between 2 places and you have no idea how that's even possible. It's really good.
Would you classify it as science fiction, fantasy? No, I think that a lot of people think different ways, and this is really just one way to just like believe in that and think that it's really a reality. So I don't think that it's beyond, like, I don't think that it would be so far to go science fiction.
It sort of sounds as you're speaking about it, that the author is saying too, that she could be any of us. That there's a high degree of empathy in the author that,
Yeah, I
that
think,
says,
like I said, I think she was relatable in a lot of ways in her story, and there are some people who are more in tune to things than others, and she blocks that a lot in one life and finds it more in another life, and then is learning whether or not she even wants to dive into it because life's hard. And so, you know, why is she a drug addict as Lucy, and why is she living such a boring life as Emily, but yet it seems so terrible, but she wants to get back to it so badly, and it's just really a lot of questions that come together really quickly at the end. I'd say alternate religious.
Any additional questions?
Thank you.
So the next week's book is The Tea Girl coming Thursday. And Susan from Good Life Tea will be here to present. So come out next Monday and
Sounds good.
also, this is next week, I think there's an eclipse program on the 20th? On the 20th at 5:30. So if you wanna know more about the eclipse that's happening in April and, obtain some eclipse glasses, that will be happening on the 20th at 5:30, so come out for that. We have a NASA ambassador to explain more about the eclipse, so that you know not to look directly into.
Do you have to register for that?
Nope, that does not require registration. Also, I believe that week or the following week on a Thursday is the Hobart William Smith Speaker Series. And that will be the first one for Hobart William Smith, and then every month